Oh, that'll throw you if I stand here. Greg, thank you for the introduction and welcome everyone. What a treat to see a full room here heading into some very, very important days. And I'd just like to start, I know we're going to have an official welcome, but I just want to acknowledge that we're on Gumbunga country and acknowledge that everything that we do as an industry is about care. And it is about care for the planet, care for the world, care for country that's been looked after for thousands and thousands of years. And I think the big theme that I want to share with you in this short presentation is that challenge that we are so linear dominant. Our Western approach is a line. And it's almost been generated to be, yes, new, move on, leave that behind. Whereas this country has been looked after for generations in a circular way. We're starting to talk about that, and Greg would know that 27 years ago the idea of circular wasn't on the agenda. Now it is, but that's been part of, and there's almost a fear there that circular is like, oh, well, we're telling the same story. It's got to be new, it's got to be invigorated, I've got to give you some, a new dose of something. But every time we go back to something, we're a new person, we're a new individual. We can reflect, and we have reflected, and we've taken experiences from the time that it's taken us to go around the circle. And I've been working on some projects with Junior Landcare on how to create yarning circles in your school and your community. And what I've learnt about that is circular is the most powerful, a yarning circle is the most powerful form of democracy in history. Way beyond anything Westminster and way beyond anything Greek. Even though I did think that was the case, that it all began there. But let me tell you, it didn't. Because when you are in a circle, everyone is equal. I can see you, you can see me. There's not a front, there's not a lectern, there's not a keynote, there's not a look at me. It's everyone is sitting equal. And that's the beauty of us being together. And I also want to share that point, that being together is an incredible thing after the last few years that we've had. And there's still residue around that. There's still reluctance for people to let go and reconnect. And this theme, as Greg said, collaboration, working together for a better future. It was funny, I did a little changeover late yesterday, and I came up from the south coast, and then I emptied a bag and grabbed some fresh clothes and hit the road up here. And I was looking for a beanie because I knew it was going to be cold on the road. And I ran back upstairs. And I just love how stuff happens. And as I was looking on my desk, I found this. And this was from my local school's art. We have every second year we do an art festival. The alternate year they do there's another event. So we're not doing it every year. But that was there, and I went, oh, I'm going to grab that because it's appropriate. The name of the festival was Behold Our World. Behold. We all hold the world in our hands. Waste, and there we go, waste. As soon as I say that word, I'm back on this run. That's what we know, it's waste. Language is key. If we want to move to the future, we have to continue to change the language. We have altered it now. It is resource recovery. But we need to go further. And the work that I know that the work that we've been doing with Get Grubby, we talk about handle with care. It's not, get it out of here, stick it in a bin. Wake up Monday morning, undies on, go out and grab the bin, no one was looking. It's gone away. that language is key, and we can all be really vigilant about our language, because while some areas it's changed, I'm out there and I'm seeing it, and I get as frustrated as anyone when I pull up and when I'm driving down the street in any village and I see receptacles overflowing with valuable materials. And there's a red lid on that. And I look at it and I don't have time to take it all out. And if we're going to collaborate, the language we use is key, because we need to be in this together. We need to share the same language. We need to build the narrative. And I believe that narrative is lacking. It's lacking because I can go down the south coast, I can go somewhere down in Victoria, they got a yellow bin that's totally different to what the yellow bin is in the next municipality or across the state. Like, how can we as an industry drive this change? You know, a better future. How can we make a better future if we can't even have everyone on the same page? This isn't a criticism of anyone. This is a criticism, or this is a reality that we need to look at. And we're here to look at the future. So we've got to say, where is the story narrative coming down from the top? Because I see good stuff going on the ground, but that ends at that border. And I go from this group and they're going, yes, we just started FOGO and it's going really well. I go to the next council, they haven't even got a green bin. I was talking to a council education officer yesterday. How many education officers are here? Okay, it's early. People are reluctant to put their hand up. Identity becomes a challenge, you know. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, he's going to come and sit on my lap or something and ask me a really hard question, and I'm going to freeze because I didn't get that coffee. And, you know, a really simple thing. And they said to me, why do we call it a bin? What value does bin put on it? How long has it been called a bin? How can we change the future if we keep calling it a bin? And someone now and then says, oh, put resources in the bin. Does that work? It doesn't work. Oh, and then, but we're working in the other part. We're working on a separation to fix the problems that went into the bin. So up the chain, we've got challenges. And this person said to me, it should be called a bank. Because a bank, people have a value on it. And if we start to put a monetary value on it, not the tipping fee, because that's one size fits all. And I think this is the really big thing. If we want to look to the future, we're going to say no silver bullet. Because no industry genius can come up with a machine that can pull shit out of a bin so that it's now separated and a resource. We can have a crack, but I'm telling you, if you were there with me on Wednesday with the council people where we were refilming a Fogomentary to tell the update, because the story is flawed, you can create whatever you want. You can have magnets, you can have blowers, you can have water, you can have this, that and the other. It's flawed. Because separation, you can't take iodine out of water. Once that drops in, if it drops in at the top of the catchment, you've screwed the whole catchment. It's down there forever. And the person wanting to do the good thing down here, saying, oh, I'm a bloody market gardener and I want to use it on my farm, and then they get it delivered to their place, they get some compost delivered to their place, and what's it got in it? Plastic. Because the separation up here had the wrong narrative and didn't have people on board. Or had a narrative for this part and this group were doing it well. but we ended up with a problematic resource. This is about, I don't know if you've noticed in the last couple of years, our identity's changing because people are on board for this. And then when a change happens, I see the frustration. I felt the frustration of these people. And on the one hand, you wanted to scream and shout, but then on the other hand, you say, well, if it's got PFAS in it, what the hell are we doing? How are we allowing greenwashing to enter the future that we want? And that future is about the daily narrative and identity that we set up, the story that we say. And that narrative is changing because more and more people are angry about that. It's been exposed. And when I think about FOGO, I say, well, why are we trying to make it everything for the entire system? Yeah, just put that in too. And we'll put that in. Because then I'm getting conversations from people saying, well, we got 30% of quality green waste. Why am I putting that in with that to now contaminate it so we're lowering the value? So why are we trying to go for the silver bullet? That stuff doesn't belong in there. Get it out and call it out. We need to call it out and say, no, let's just cut it back and say, bugger this, it's food only and green waste only. Not complicate the narrative. We complicate the narrative, we build problems with the story that we're trying to build. And the story that we're trying to build is that it's a partnership. We have a partnership with nature. We're collaborating with nature. And we need to get it back to nature with the agreement that we set up from the top. And that agreement is that it's top quality. That we deal and call out single use. If we're talking about the future, we've got to deal with single use. We can't keep saying, oh, well, we'll keep doing this activity and we'll find a way that we can kind of hide it as recyclable. It's not working. It's not happening. I see the frustration on the ground with people. We did a FOGO-mentary in Bega. They did 1 year of education. That education had basically almost 0.1% contamination because of that lead-in. The FOGO-mentary brought 50 kids from schools together to tell the story. 50 kids. And they all turned up for the screening and they brought 5 or 7 people with them. Incredible buy-in. I then saw these kids 5 years on. And you should hear their questions when they look at all these things and go, why? They go, it's got PFAS in it. Oh, no one told us. Like really innocent. But the innocence that we need to have if we're going to grow a better future. Because when we collaborate with nature, it's our obligation and duty to nurture. And that partnership is a contract. And when we see it as a contract, when we see it as a love story, when we talk about handling with care, which is what we do, then that language becomes who we are. That language plays out. We stop and think carefully about saying that. If I start to change the word bin to bank, that has a ripple effect of magnitude because it changes the consciousness and it brings a new perspective. And that's really why we're here, because we want to be in a better position. But I see the challenges on the ground because single use is still driving that away story. And COVID undid a lot of good work. People were frustrated. They saw how much everything was wrapped in plastic, everything was single use, everything. We can push back now, but we need to have a narrative that enables the big picture. It needs to come from the top down, but it can't be silver bullet. It needs to be adaptable, because those communities that I was in yesterday, each one of them approaches it in a slightly different way. So we want to give those communities the chance to do it their way. And if their way means they bring it or collect it in smaller spaces, and it doesn't necessarily go to a massive centre and travel a long distance. These are the things that people are telling me on the ground. That's what excites me, because then we're not trying to go, just keep doing it the same way we did. Keep putting everything in there and deal with the problem and frustrate everyone in the chain, because people that had all the quality green waste are now getting it contaminated. And we're getting ratios that shouldn't exist. If we say, keep it simple, this bank is for that and that's it, just food. Not boxes that may have contaminants in it. Not cups that we're told can be compostable in an industrial facility or this facility or that facility. We need to be vigilant, and we need to say, yes, keep working on it. I'm not doing that to anyone that's working in that space. I'm saying, let's just not put it in that bin and wreck the whole process. Because that's the touch point with community. Because when we engage with them on that day-to-day basis, every day you are contributing to the bank. And that is in safe hands up the chain to the point that it gets processed and then brought back to your community to store water, to provide fire prevention, to build ecosystems, to provide fields for our children, to create beauty and therapeutic benefits of being in beautiful cities and having beautiful gardens and all these things, let alone going back onto farms. That's the ultimate. It's the ultimate, but we've got a way to go. We really do. And that's the national story. And it's intergenerational. That's what I loved about the Fogomentary. This was grandparents to grandkids, and everyone captured in between under a big blanket. There's work to do. And we're all part of it. We all have a role in that place. So to give you an idea, I went to the Little Food Festival, which is just a children's food festival in Melbourne. And, I go there as Costa the Garden Gnome. This is narrative. This is story. This is breaking the chains of same. So it doesn't bother me in the slightest how stories. Because whether I'm wearing my gnome's outfit or whether I'm wearing a pair of jeans, it doesn't matter. If anything, this creates engagement. This connects in different ways. When I speak like this, I have I have superpowers. I do have superpowers when I'm this gnome, because I can step into every generation. And at this little food festival, they had what we call wash against waste. So every stall holder had the containers given to them, and sitting next to any bank was a bank where all those containers went back. You've probably heard of this. But you know what I want you to think about? Why don't we do this in our communities? If you get takeaway from a restaurant, why should we have takeaway cup? Think about that. Hello, yes, I'll have my normal coffee, thank you. Oh, there you go, there's the lid. I take it, walk 3 steps, put the lid in the bin. What the hell? Where has that habit come from? We've got to look at these things. Think about all the takeaway that's gone on. Why can't we do the Little Food Festival in a community and start to do it? I know cafes that do it with mugs. But if we want to look at the future, if we want to really think about a better future, we've got to start to think about these modular options, to put these solutions on the ground in community in a way that it can be a modular for a small town like Bermagui or a bigger town like Coffs. And everyone just knows that these are the cups and the plates. And these are different banks that they go into. Think about that. We're the ones that keep buying single use. We're the ones that create the waste. We can change it. And it happens at events like that. You know, and it really gives us that opportunity to see all the modular aspects of life and say, well, how can we eliminate this? And how can we eliminate that? That's the exciting part. I see these people on the ground working hard. But education is key. Narrative is key. Story is key. If we don't think about bottom up and top down, and top down is lacking. I went to Canberra. I was called into Canberra a couple of years ago. And I just said it bluntly to the minister. Because I wanted to know, what are we going to do about all this waste? And FOGO this and FOGO that and blah, blah, blah. I said, education. Your job is education. From the broad scale down. And then give all the local organisations the chance to build that narrative suitable for their community. The two communities I was in and around this week, they were both different. And one of them, you know, they say, well, we don't want that if it's going to create a contaminated material. That to me is a future goal. But we've got to keep it simple. We've got to value and handle that valuable resource with care and say, food, there. Green, there. And that then gives us, I'm not even going into what that means for the other bins, for the other banks, and how we can turn those banks out of landfill and into resource recovery and give people the chance to change the habits that they've had dropped on them over, you know, it hasn't been that long when you think about it. So this conference really is a chance for us to reflect on how we can collaborate and work together. Where do you fit in the intergenerational aspect? Where do you fit in the story narrative? Where do you fit at the local level? What can you do at the federal level? And then what can we do as a group of 600 people and an industry to work together and not shoulder each other for the same pools of resources and funding and so on, but actually lift each other and bring this whole group forward as an industry that can change the future. And, for that matter, must. We have obligations and duties. And to grow champions in the community who own and share that story from the ground up. So I'll finish by, I feel like it's been 20 minutes. Oh, good. I'm just going off the feel. And I didn't even talk to you about my T-shirts, but that's all right. And I didn't need to put my gumboots on because I was moving around too much. We're together. We're together for an incredible reason. And that's more comes out of the sum of these parts. A lot more comes out of it. So don't hesitate to collaborate. Oh, that's a good one. Even rhymed. Hashtag. Don't hesitate to collaborate and help build a framework that tells nature's story, that renews our contract and regenerates our agreement with nature, that puts that as a value so that value can play out as our values. These are exciting times. And the more we confront, the more we call out, the more we challenge, and the more we collaborate, the brighter the future will be. Thank you for the privilege to open the conference like this. I really value it. Thank you.